One.
Mr. Rouse didn't have his mic on.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Twiggs County Board of Education call meeting. Today is November 3rd, 2020. May we stand for pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Sorry about the lateness. Board members, people attending the board meeting tonight.
You muted, Mr. Mike.
Okay, people attending the meeting tonight is Shirley Stokes, Ms. Harris, Teresa Blackshear, and Mr. Edwin Dixon, Superintendent. I have a motion to approve the agenda for the November 3rd, 2020 call board meeting.
I move that motion.
I second that motion.
The motion has been made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Mr. Harris to approve the agenda for tonight call board meeting, November 3rd, 2020. Is there any question at this time? Any discussion? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. That motion carried unanimous. On the agenda tonight, exit statement, Ms. Blackshear.
Thank you. In accordance with regulations set forth by the Georgia Ethics Commission, it is the duty of every board member conflict of interest or interest of such conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest? Seeing none, we will proceed with our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. There's not an item for superintendent comment, but do you have any comments, Mr. Dixon, Superintendent Dixon?
Very briefly, tonight, Mr. Rouse, to Chairman Rouse, I want to say thank you all for coming to the call board meeting on tonight. And to our stakeholders, thank you for joining us tonight, if there be any. And also, I would like to say a very special thank you to the Oconee EMC. They delivered to us water bottles, individual water bottles for our students today. And I want to say a very special thank you to them for bringing those water bottles to our central office, and we will make sure that they get to the hands of our scholars. Just everyone is being so nice during this time, and we very much appreciate their generosity during this time. So we want to say a very special thank you to them for their generosity. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Business agenda for tonight. Item A, remaining school year option. Action item. Mr. Rouse, Mr. Dixon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, Ms. Vice Chair, and board members tonight. As you know, we're in some unprecedented times. We're in a time that from 1 minute to the next, we're having to make some very critical and crucial decisions. So as we're moving and transitioning through these times, I thought it was very necessary that we have some board involvement in the decisions concerning the opening and closing of school. I had to make a quick decision on last week, but which some of the decision was made for me with the help of the Twiggs County advice from the Twiggs County Health Department and the CDC. as a result of staff member being infected by COVID-19, 2 staff members. And now we have had also a student infected by it. So therefore, it's necessary that we take some time to revisit our plan. Our initial plan, if you remember, we were going to start school on July 29th with staff returning. We had to delay that from July 29th to August 17th with staff returning. And then we started off virtually for the first 9 weeks. Then we kind of did a phase in because we wanted our students to be in the brick and mortar buildings. However, there are some risks with being in the brick and mortar buildings that we were aware of, with being bringing groups of students together, bringing groups of staffs together. But we did some things to help to try to be as safe as possible. We did some things with our HVAC system.
School year, as far as he's saying the semester or whatever, and need some input from the board. Ms. Stokes, you have anything you would like to say?
Well, for myself, I'd love it if the kids could come back to school, but every time we let them in the school system, in the school buildings, somebody gets sick. So hopefully by Christmas time or after the Christmas holiday, we'll have something will be settled by that time, I hope.
Okay. That you finished, Ms. Stokes?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Rouse, for the opportunity. I agree with Mr. Stokes. I would love for our students to be in-person learning, and this virtual has been a tedious task for teachers, as well as our students and our stakeholders who raise and oversee our students. So this has been a tedious task. I would like to commend those administrators for making this transition a little less burdensome for our parents, and I thank you for being just flexible during times as everyone has to adjust and readjust as we adjust and readjust with all the multiple changes. So thank you so much, administrators, for what you do, because we have not had a lot of situations, and this situation having a COVID positive teacher is unfortunate, but we knew that this could and had the possibility of happening. But thank you so much for adjusting and making sure that scholars have what they need. Mr. Rouse, Superintendent Dixon, fellow board members, I would love for our students to be in-person learning, but I just think it's a bit dangerous as our numbers continue to rise locally in the state as well as Tweeds County. It would be a unsafe situation for me to vote yes to in-person learning, or just to even have the mindset that they can case now, but it could be multiple, and this could have been worse. This one case could have been worse. So thank you, Superintendent Dixon, for moving expeditiously to make sure that we acted in some manner. But going forward, I just don't know that the November 9th date that we submitted to the general public is sufficient. And I think with some further dialogue tonight with the board, I think we can come to a consensus that 2020 just may not be the time to return to in-person learning.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Blackshear?
Thank you. I would piggyback off what Mr. Harris and Ms. Stokes said. For as our staff, our entire system, I do want to say thank you for y'all coming in and doing such a great job with our children. Thank you, parents, for letting your kids come to our building to learn. Safety is our #1 priority, of course. But being, I have a grandchild that's in the system. I have nephews, nieces, and which all of us have somebody that's in the system. And education is very important. A lot of our children are getting behind because they're not in the building. And I know we've had 2 teachers and 1 student. They're in the same classroom. So I just think that we still need to educate our kids. I think that we need to get our children back in the building so that they can get an education. Maybe we can offset maybe the, for as the bus. I know we got JES, then we got the middle high school. Maybe we can make some alternation on for as the route. Maybe we can let the elementary school bus driver come at a different time than the middle high school. But I really think our kids need to get back in the building. Education is very important, and I just think that they learn more as they are in the building. They're getting behind being at home virtual.
You finished, Ms. Blackshear?
Yes.
Thank you. My comments. Yes, our children are first. Education is good, and we need to educate our kids. I agree with that 100%. I look at the risk factor as far as if we return to school on the 9th, a couple weeks we're out for Thanksgiving, and a lot of mingling going on during the holiday with the family. And to me, then you return back to school and you work, maybe you in school, if don't nothing change, if you don't come back and we have some cases and say in 3 weeks we out for Christmas. I mean, my opinion is still in and out and taking the risk factor. And I do know that in-person learning is better. And I think we all agree on that. But sometimes you have to go with the change that's safety wise. And this is not just about the board and not just about the teachers and the staff. The kids can get educated. Maybe it's better, in person. But if everybody work together, that includes the parents, the grandparents, and the kids and the teachers, we can get through this time. I personally don't want to put no one at risk because that's just one case that we know. But how many more? It don't take that many to. Twiggs County is not that big, not that large. So you get 4 or 5 cases, and you got an epidemic right here within the school system. So that's my opinion. But it's a board decision, but that's just where I feel.
So,
Mr. Chair, may I mention something to Ms. Blackshear's comment, which may be a possibility. She brought up the fact that maybe doing a double route system so that our elementary students may not mingle with middle high school students. There has been a time where Twiggs County did have different buses for certain schools. Back in the early 2000s, there were elementary school buses that elementary school students did not ride with middle high school students. I don't know if that's something that our budget could handle in the fiscal year, the calendar year 2020, 2021. But there may need to be some further discussion and maybe a separation or an alternate day situation, Ms. Blackshear, that we can talk to Superintendent Dixon about a plan to be implemented in January, possibly, because we have some time to develop some things. But as far as a big change now, I just don't see it.
I know we do have I'm sorry, Mr. Rouse, is it okay?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Blackshear.
Sorry about that. I know Superintendent Dixon, or
Yes,
our
ma'am.
CARES money, do you think that would be able to help us out with that?
No, we have allotted the CARES money for this year. If you remember, it was allotted for 2 years, and the monies that we have allotted for this year, we have already designated that money what we would use it for. You remember we allotted it for the computers, the extra computers this year.
For just computers?
Yes, ma'am. In those hot spots.
So all of it went to computers.
The majority of what we were using the CARES money for this year, that's what we allotted it for.
Hmm.
Now, it's over a 2-year period. And we saved half of it for next budget year. You know, you can always amend it, but we did save some of it because we didn't know what the next budget year was going to look like.
Anyone else? Okay, recommendation, Mr. Dixon?
Mr. Chair, my recommendation would be that due to the risk factors of COVID-19 and the way it is affecting the lives of people, I would say that we would suspend in-person learning until after the Christmas holidays and return to in-person learning, revisit it for January 2021.
Okay, you heard the recommendation from the superintendent to suspend in-person learning to revisit it for January 2021. Do I have any question or discussion or motion?
Discussion, Mr. Rouse, Superintendent Dixon, that decision to be made prior to January 2021, or decision contingent to the numbers of COVID and discuss further board discussion at our final 2020 board meeting?
That's a good question, Mr. Harris. Our final meeting will be kind of early in December, unless we have some call meetings in December, which we probably will end up having to have some. And I would say, depending on where we are, we would, let's say that the way that you stated that then.
All right. Yes, sir. If there's a motion on the floor, I proceed.
Okay, you're saying then that we look at the numbers and hopefully we made a decision that the children are coming back and the staff, everybody be back in January, right? Not look at it in January. That's what we're saying, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The decision would have to be made
Round two.
before.
I mean, because they need to know, everybody need to know.
Yes, sir.
With at least a 2-week notice, which would put us
Which our final meeting would be 2 weeks in advance in December.
Okay.
So we can put a date on that, Mr. Chair.
What date would that be?
December 22nd, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris, do we have a scheduled meeting on that on the 22nd?
We do not. But we didn't schedule a meeting. We scheduled a date to give an announcement.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So that's what that date is for announcement.
I got you. Okay.
Okay. I have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I motion that we revisit our return to in-person learning with a conversation pending and contingent to COVID numbers, and to have an announcement to our stakeholders, to our administrators, and to our students on December 22nd as a notification of the date to return.
Do I have a second?
second.
Motion has been properly made by Mr. Harris to, I hope the secretary got all that information that Mr. Harris put out there.
She can rewatch it.
Okay. Well, the motion has been properly made by Mr. Harris, really to revisit and let everyone know about the in-person learning, in-person school by December the 22nd. It was seconded by Mrs. Stokes. Is there any question at this time? Any discussion? All in favor? I know you by the words aye or raise your hand. All opposed had the same right. That 3, 4, 1 opposed. That motion carried. Next on our business agenda, superintendent search. Action item, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Rouse, once again, Chairman Rouse and Assistant Chair Blackshear. You should have received a packet from Mr. Sampson from GSBA. There were some typos in there that we are cleaning up, such as our number of students that we have in our district. We've begun to clean that up already. With that, some demographic information, we've cleaned that part up. The thing that I need for you to look at is the timeline information that we need for you to look at to make sure that the timeline information is something that you are comfortable with. Did you all receive that information?
No, I didn't.
I did.
Okay. Did you receive it, Ms. Blackshear?
Yes.
Mr. Harris, did you receive it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I believe the beginning date all applications would be due by, I believe that was December 13th or 14th, if I'm not mistaken, would be the cutoff date for the review panel to start the review process. And then the interviews will start by the first of the year, by January 1. So is that a timeline that you want, or you want the interviews to begin earlier? Or would this be in a personnel matter, something that we need to discuss during executive session?
We don't have to discuss it in executive session. I'm grabbing the calendars. We can iron some of this out now. If it moves to a personnel issue, we can move to executive session.
Okay.
Can somebody send me the information, because I have not received any?
Let me forward it to you, Ms. Stokes.
Okay.
While I forward, I do want to say the December 13th date is sufficient, I think, because of, as long as the announcement is made, of course, by November 13th, as well as the applications are open as of November 13th, which gives a calendar date of 13 to 13, which is 30 days for applicants to apply for a superintendent position. So November 13th through December 13th, if it closes on December 13th. I think that a week within the final day, if GSBA is able to provide us with the download of those applications, the board would have a week, an exact week to review and to make arrangements for interviews.
Okay. Any more inputs?
There's one additional thing, Mr. Rouse. We wanted to know if you would like for the community to do an assessment to see what we would like to see in the next superintendent. We would like for the community to do an assessment. It would be an online assessment. One much similar to the one that you all did. Not the exact one, but one similar to the assessment that you all did.
Okay, board, how you feel about that?
I think that would be a great idea to get input from the community as well.
I don't think that should be the final or the only input that the stakeholders have an opportunity by. I know that COVID, holds us hostage in a lot of situations. However, we will be doing in-person interviews. And if we are doing in-person interviews, I do think that that second interview has an opportunity for a stakeholder, identified stakeholders, to sit at that table as well.
Ms. Stokes, how do you feel about the community doing the assessment, the online assessment?
Well, I agree with the online assessment, but I do not agree with the public being in on our interviews with these subjects.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Blackshear?
Well, I have no problem with it either way. I mean, I do want to make sure the community is involved, and they don't make the final decision, but we do want to hear from our community with the.
Okay, well, I agree with the assessment part, as far as the little survey, but as far as the interview, I don't think that the stakeholders should be in on the interview. I mean, they elected us as board members for a reason. So they should have faith in you if they elected you. And if you get too many people in a room, I think we should be able to do our job. So that's just my opinion, though.
All right. I'll communicate that we want the community to do the online assessment. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. So back to the timeline. You say everything okay with that?
Superintendent Dixon, just to be fair, that is fine. That stakeholders don't have an opportunity to sit among, and let me restate my statement. I did say second interview, not first interviews. Normally, by shareholders or stakeholders are brought in on second interviews at some sense. We don't have to do it that way, but also that was a tie. Ms. Blackshear and I agreed that was a strong possibility. And Mr. Rouse and Ms. Stokes felt differently. So there was some drawdown in the middle, and I guess you broke that tie.
No. He can't break the tie. And we didn't kill that. I just did that part of it. So that would be some further discussion for you guys to decide.
Let me say this, and no, we don't have to do that. I agree with Mr. Rouse that can become convoluted. I do identify with that as well. So in these times, it's okay if we don't do that. I have no issues with that. I'm okay with the survey. Let me just say that survey that we even completed, it lacked character for what Twigs. There were some areas that we could not identify with, and there were some areas that maybe a little bit more detail to tell what exactly we need. So it was very generic for me. And if it was very generic for me, it would do the same for the community. But that's the place, that's the what we set in place, and that's who we've hired to do our search. So I trust the process, but I did want to acknowledge that. Thank
you, Mr. Harris. And just to be fair, Mr. Harris, I I didn't think that Ms. Dixon broke the tire as far as it wasn't like a vote. And I recall that Mrs. Blackshear said it either way, she just wanted the community involved. And I figured my thinking, a survey, they are involved. But if you want them in there for the second interview, I got no problem with that. But I do think that that could become a problem. But you know, that's all depends on the board. Like I said, we can discuss that later. We got time to discuss that. But I don't want it to look like Superintendent Dixon favor me and Miss Stokes or you and Miss Blackshear. You know, it shouldn't be like that because it was just a discussion at the time. But as far as you say about the assessment that we received from DSBA, yeah, it was kind of general. And if the one that Ms. Dixon is talking about, I think it should be fit our case a little better than what they done. I mean, be a little more particular with it, of what we need or what we're looking for.
And that's what, you know, I would need to hear to be able to say, because remember, I didn't complete the assessment, you know, so that needs to be communicated. Because if it's not tailored to Twig's needs, and if it's not going to be compatible to Twig's, then the survey is meaningful.
But did you have anything in mind when you the suggestion for it? So did you have anything already in mind as far as the assessment? I mean, you've been here superintendent for eight plus years.
I would think a survey would be good, but I would definitely review the survey and ask, get some input as to some things that maybe need to be in that survey. If that survey is a cookie cutter survey, that we are in Middle Georgia, and if the survey was designed to be for Metro, I could see where that could be different. So I can have some conversation with the representatives from GSBA to make sure that it is personable enough for Middle Georgia. So we'll take a look at that. We'll have some further discussion about it, the survey.
Okay. Any more discussion as far as the timeline?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. As the next date for timelines would official hire, as we have a week to deliberate, to review applications, and to set interviews for the last week and the first week of the year of 2021. So we have opportunities for interviews. If we take a week to deliberate, I don't know if anyone would be willing to interview with us and for us between the 21st and the 25th. However, the following week and the first week of the year may be great opportunity. We do need to name a date that we wanted this to be finished and solidified, or a possible announcement date. And that could always be pushed back, but there are sometimes, I know things happen. I'm okay with pushing back a date, but we need a date of anticipation of an announcement, and I would name that at that final board meeting for January, which would be January 26th, which gives a little wiggle room for 2 weeks.
Okay. That's to make the announcement, Mr. Harris?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if we need more time, I think we can. We don't have to be that date, but we did want to contingent to some decisions that we have to make with said person. I think that would be, if we did not announce it, or if that person was unable to start prior to that date, we may run into some contract conversations. Superintendent Dixon, correct me if I'm wrong, or and I would love your opinion on this, Superintendent Dixon. How would that date work, contingent to you working with that person from January to June?
That would be really good to give that person opportunity to have input into new hires and having input with new contracts for the year. Because one of the things that we don't want to do is be late giving out our contracts, allowing people to shop around, accept jobs in other places, and then have us dangling around because they're looking at other places. We like to get our contracts out. Now we have a clause in ours about when people can get out of contracts, and so we've enforced that for our first time. We've gotten the dividend of that back. So now that's so we definitely need to get our contracts out in a timely manner if we're going to hold people accountable with that. And I think the new superintendent needs to have some input into what his team is going to look like.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dixon.
But just keeping in mind of the laws of it has to be posted once we name. If we name a sole candidate, it has to be posted for 14 days. So once the naming of it, just knowing that part, if we name 3 finalists or whatever, however the team, the governance team deems to do that. But if we name a sole finalist, it has to be posted for 14 days. Okay, keep that in mind. But that date would work if we did that, that would get the ball to rolling.
Thank you. And I have a rebuttal, Mr. Rouse. Sorry. And in saying that, that announcement can happen even after that person has already taken the job. Am I right, Superintendent Dixon?
Yes.
So our contracts wouldn't necessarily have to be delayed unless we minused or reduced our contract days, or I'm sorry, our deliberation days. So it's contingent to our deliberation days, what it looks like, because if we have 2 weeks to interview 3 candidates or more, however the board chooses to work that, there's still a 2-week gap from our first board meeting to our last board meeting. So that announcement could come in February. However, that person would still have an opportunity to be a part of the new contract opportunities for our current staff and possible new hires.
Okay. So you still want to put the what date you want to put down there as far as you say you say we need a date, at least anticipation date.
If the board's okay with it, I think that a date of anticipation for an announcement being January 26th would be sufficient. Looking at our what we have asked for a plan with GSBA, and Madam Vice Chair may be able to speak to that as well.
Ms. Blackshear? Ms. Blackshear?
it. Sorry. I said, I think that the 26th would be good timing, for us to, and then for us to do our 3 finalists, we'll go from there and narrow it on down. I think that would be good. And if we do need to move time, we can actually move the date if we need to. But I think that's pretty good, 26. Thank you, Ms. Harris. Thank you, Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear.
And Ms. Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, Ms. Stokes, Mr. Dixon. Thank all y'all.
Thank you.
So what we gonna do with this as far as the action item?
That we need to prove it with the corrections.
And you got those down, right?
I don't think we need to approve it. There's no approve. I think this does not need to be an action item.
Okay.
It needs it just needs to be communicated back to them that this is the expectation. Now,
Mr. Dixon, you're sending them back the correction?
I'm sending them back the corrections and the expectation.
Okay.
Mr. Harris, would you about to say something about?
I was processing. I think
Okay.
Ms. Harris, didn't hear you, Mr. Harris.
I was processing. I was about to say, but I think we're fine. I don't think there was anything on there that we needed to approve to move action on. It was just a lot of misinformation or unstated things that we have discussed, and I was trying to recall if those conversations were held in executive session or in general session, open public session. And that way it may have been an action, but I do think those conversations were executive session conversations in reference to the requirements that that announcement has for candidates to meet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do we need to amend that to go to the executive session with it, or?
We've already discussed it. I think they used to go to the executive session now.
It's far as I think what Mr. Harris is saying is some things that's not on there that we had discussed that we would like to have on it, but and it would discuss.
I know that there was one thing on the first line. It did say a PhD, and we said that we were not requiring a PhD. If I remember correctly, am I correct?
You are correct. Well, we want to talk about the things that is incorrect and things that it lacks. There are a couple of requirements on there. There's a requirement candidate or that possible candidate to live within a 50-mile radius of our district, of our county.
Yes.
Okay. So that was more information item.
I got it.
All right. Anybody got anything else on that?
There are some corrections, Superintendent Dixon, on the back that has the number of years that board members have served that needs to be corrected as well.
Mm-hmm. We caught that.
Okay. So you're going, as you said, you'll make sure that all the changes, necessary, proper corrections be made, then, right, Mr. Dixon?
And I will send them out to you all before we once we get it edited, we'll send it back out before we get it for final draft out.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
Mr. Chair, in reference to the announcement, you were asking, do we have anything else in general or just about that announcement?
Well, if we through with the announcement, if you got anything general.
Okay. Yeah, let's go back to our first point of order of business to the not returning to school. For a point of clarity, Superintendent Dixon, I think it would be in our best interest as to what employees will be expected to work from home as far as teachers, paras. I know the central office may still be in the office, but will teachers be working from home or in the building?
That's a good question, and I think the board is we're gonna have to set that standard as well as to what we would like that to look like. My concern is I don't want to put any staff member at risk that we don't have to put at risk. If a staff member can get their job done and get it done well. If a staff member is not getting their job done, then they have to come to the building. If they're getting it done to keep being can be safe, I think it's fair enough for them to be able to do it. But if they're not getting the job done, they have to come to the building to get it done. Now, if their internet prevents them from getting it done and they need to come to the building, they can come to the building to get it done. Okay. But if they can get their job done there, we will be at central office. We will be running the central office from the central office.
Okay. That's awesome. I think that's a great assessment, and I think that's a great idea, Superintendent Dixon. Do you think that it would be in the best interest of the board, our stakeholders, our students, and our building level administrators that they identify beforehand those individuals that they already may know need to be in that building for the sake of technology and for the sake of just general professionalism? I think it would be a great idea for our principals to identify their teachers, their staff members that need to be in the building because we have they have had the opportunity to assess. We've been home before and we've been in the building before, and I think they would do a great job identifying those individuals that may need to report to that building.
And that's a good point, Mr. Harris. And I observed classes today for a good long while, and I'll give the principals that opportunity too. But we do have the capability to observe classes from where I sit, and I will be observing classes. It's a problem when I log in and I see 2 students in class. I definitely better see some communication when I look in the communication log with there that these parents are being communicated to, that the students are not logging in. So it's not a day off. Teachers still have a responsibility and accountability pieces. And we are still accountable to these scholars to give them the best education that we can give to them. So we have a responsibility to inspect what we expect.
And Mr. Dixon, I agree with that. Just like now, back to what Ms. Blackshear said, you know, the kids need to be educated, and we know they would do better in class. So we need to monitor them a little more closely, like you said. There need to be some communication. Everybody need to be held accountable to make sure that the kids are getting the best education that they can while they're not in person. You know, like you said, it's not a day off, not for the students, not for the teachers. And it seemed to be a lot of freedom, I think, too much freedom. But if you can monitor, then you can see. So I'm speaking for me, and I hope the board that we holding everybody, we accountable, and the staff and the teachers, the parents and the children accountable for them getting that education. I mean, we do all we can to put it there, but they need to use what they got, what we have available to them.
Yes, sir. And I spent majority of the day today virtually visiting classes. And so gonna be like a dog on a bone. And just that they're not logging on is not going to be an acceptable answer, because I was one of these kids one day at a point in my life. And so there is an expectation with that. Also, there's another aspect of it. Thank you for bringing us back to that, Mr. Harris. We also need to talk about what does this need to look like for athletics? Well,
and before we segue into that, I just want to say I definitely agree, Mr. Rouse and Superintendent Dixon, that we want our teachers to be on board. We want our teachers and administrators to be fully aware and present at all times. I'm thankful for our staff, and I think we have a great team. But COVID is hard, and I know some people are battling with their families, so on and so forth. But I would be remiss not to identify and acknowledge that we need stakeholder buy-in. We need our parents to be fully engaged during this time. We need for grandparents to call us if there are some issues going on with technology, to alert the proper authorities so that we get them what they need. It's just very hard to be a teacher during COVID. Trust me, I have heard. but I do know that we need a little bit more parental help. We need a little bit more accountability at the home. And I know it's hard for them as well, but I promise, I believe if our parents, our grandparents just push our scholars a little bit more and hold us accountable as well as they hold the household accountable, our scholars will do okay during COVID. So I would be remiss not to acknowledge that fact. But Superintendent Dixon, thank you for the segue into athletics. And this is the question of the night.
Okay.
I would like to say before you get into the athletic piece, I know can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Dixon said it was 2 students in class. And I mean, it's not the teacher's fault because the teacher's not there in the household. You know, they're with the grandparents or the parents or whatever. I mean, that's why I say our kids, I'm just so ready for them to get back in the building so they can have that in-building learning. And then Mr. Dixon, I know you said that the teachers, some of them are gonna have to come, you giving them an option, some gonna have to come in the building, some are gonna be at home. That's
Next year, I think that's administrator's discretion.
fine.
Level
Yeah.
administrator
Excuse me?
should have that discretion.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, but he brought it up to us. That's his decision, but just make sure.
He wasn't saying it was his decision either. It would be principals
He
to
says the
identify.
decision. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. But that's a big cookie that I'm sure that we're gonna hear a lot about. So you know, having some to come in, some not. But okay. But ready for the kids to get back in the building so they can learn.
Let me just say this.
I'm done with that. Go athletics.
TEKS is TEKS, and teachers will be evaluated. Am I right, Superintendent Dixon?
Mm-hmm.
Every teacher for themselves. That's not a school evaluation. That's teacher for teacher. If our building level administrators can't identify who is strong enough to teach virtually from home, then we have some questions to ask. But that should be a building level decision. That should come from principals who they deem needs to be in the building. That's from their evaluations. It would be possible for Superintendent Dixon to look across the entire district and identify teacher by teacher who should be in the building. That's why we have principals.
Okay, I understand. But then too, you got some teachers that are afraid to go back in the building. So what do you do about that? You're gonna push them in because they can't teach better than this teacher? That's a decision that he has to make though. That's out of our league.
Well, you got.
Actually, it's not. We just had this conversation last board meeting when there were some concerns brought to the board about health issues and people who could not work in the building. And that was a decision that we would have to make ultimately.
In each case, different.
Every case is different.
Right, every case, yes, yes.
Okay.
Athletic.
We and we've tried to address every case. We tried to, even to people who had technology issues, I've offered some solutions for some. Some people don't want solutions. They want to bring the problem. So we want to give solutions and opportunity for people to be successful. And if our contracted people can contact parents, contact the students, our teachers can do the same thing. I just want you to do the very best that you can to educate our kids. Don't slight our kids. You know, teach our kids like you would teach. You will want someone to teach you your very own, because ours deserve the very best as well. So as we move and transition to athletics, but Mr. Chair, we do have to make that decision, because we did make the decision to open up athletics, fall athletic, winter athletics. I'm sorry. So we need to talk about what does that look like? Do we continue with that piece?
Okay. Ms. Stokes, what you have to say about that?
Well, as long as we don't have any sick kids involved in it, we'll be able to have it open for the kids. But if it turns out like it has been for us opening up the school, some of them come up sick and all, we would have to shut it back down again.
Okay. Ms. Blackshear?
Well, I feel like that should be up to the coach and the parent. They actually need to, if it's gonna go, they do need to sign up, paperwork, or, that they're coming in. They need to sign the proper paperwork as if they are giving their child the opportunity to play whatever sport.
So they need to sign a waiver.
Yes, as long as we're being virtual. Yes, sir, I think so. That's just my
Okay.
thought.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Harris?
No comments.
So you saying that it don't matter with you about whether we have athletics or not?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, my comment, my opinion, is when we was going virtual during the football season, we canceled that whole season. I mean, in order to be fair and equity, there's not nothing personal, but if we're gonna go virtual, my opinion is you got to do all sports the same. We canceled the whole football season. We didn't ask for a waiver. We didn't ask for nothing. We just say, okay, if we can't go to school in person, we couldn't play football. So, but that's my opinion. But to me, it just don't seem fair to do one and not do the other one. And I love football. I love basketball, but it's risk factor either way. I mean, the risk factor hadn't changed since football season. So, do we need what we got to do about that? We got to have a motion on that, or what? Or it's not on there as an action item, but
It's not on the agenda as an action item. With that, I just needed some guidance on how to move forward with it. And the board, when we would decide it before in with it. And the only comments that I have is that we've lost quite a few students due to not having it. But we've lost some due to not having it. We got a chance, opportunity. We may lose some if we have it. That's the only comment I have, because I didn't have opinion when we did it before, and I'm not going to advocate one way or the other with it now. And I did not.
Yeah, I do have a question in reference to the business or the decision making of the board in reference to this being an action or a non-action item. Was this originally an action item when proposed for football season? Who made the decision, the board or the superintendent?
the board.
It should be the same tonight. If it's the same situation and it was proposed the same way, if the board had full autonomy with your recommendation at heart and mind, the board should have that same right tonight to make unanimous or not unanimous decision.
Mr. Harris, it was in executive. We were in executive session during that time with the football.
The conversation was in executive session, or
It was.
the decision.
The conversation was in executive session. We came out and made our announcement.
Okay, well, I yield that we move to executive session to further discuss and announce publicly what the board, along with the superintendent, decided.
Okay. Well, give me a motion that we move out of we exit regular business and move into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we move from open session, public session, to executive session to discuss personnel in addition to athletic plans.
I get a second.
Second.
The motion had been properly made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Ms. Blackshear, that we'll move from public session to executive session for personnel matters and to discuss athletics. You heard that motion. Are you ready to vote? If
I
there's
need to
no,
know how to go from this meeting to the executive meeting. I don't know how to do it on my computer.
You're just gonna stay there. You're just gonna stay right where you are. You don't have to do anything, Ms. Sherman.
Oh, okay.
all right, any more discussion? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. I can't see you, Ms. Blackshear. Okay. All right, that motion passed unanimously. We will get ready to enter into executive session. we're back out of executive session. Could I have a motion that we exit executive session and back into public session, please?
Mr. Chair, I move the motion that we exit executive session and enter back into public session.
Second.
The motion been properly made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Ms. Stokes that we exit out of executive session back into public session. There any discussion at this time? All in favor? Nobody raise your hand or say aye. That motion carried unanimous. In personnel, in executive session, there was no personnel changes, just discussions, but nothing to change. So there's nothing to bring forward. So that being all, my motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
The motion been properly made by Ms. Stokes and seconded by Ms. Blackshear to adjourn this call meeting. Any question, any discussion? All in favor, know you by aye or raise your hand. That motion carried unanimous. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, team.